Hi everyone, I hope you're doing good. My name is Vikas and in this video I'm going to talk about Jinja2 templates within Ansible. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so in this lab we will be covering few topics. We will start from the very basic examples and then we will try to cover a little more advanced topics. So we'll be talking about what is Ansible template, what is Jinja 2, how to use variables within templates, control structures in templates. So for example, loops and how do we use it as a conditional, various filters in Jinja 2 templates, how to use lookups and external data using template module in Ansible, customizing output with Jinja 2 formatting, and we'll also cover a few advanced topics like macros and template inheritance. So in terms of the introduction, we need to basically understand two things. One is Ansible template and what is Jinja 2. So Ansible template allows us to dynamically generate and configure files. So it could be your normal files, scripts, it could be a variable, and it could be even the logic. All of these templates within Ansible are written using Jinja 2, which is a powerful templating engine. These templates are generally stored with a J2 extension, and Ansible will render them during the playbook execution. So like I already mentioned, they enable dynamic content generation, making our playbook more flexible and reusable. Jinja 2 templating engine, which I already talked about, is a Python-based templating engine widely used within Ansible for dynamic content generation, like I already mentioned. We can use it for variable interpolation, conditional statements, loops, and filters. Okay, so let's start with the first example. We will see how to use variables within templates. So before we do that, let me create a sample demo playbook and I will fast forward the video for this. So this is our Ansible playbook. Let's create a Jinja 2 template in the same directory. Okay, so what I've done is I've created this playbook where we have different type of variables. One type of variables, as you can see, which are highlighted right now, are key value pairs. So username, location, age, and role. Then we have a list variable where we have different users listed under the user's key. And then we have a users detail list of dictionaries where we have different users and we have different details about these users. And we will use these variables to demonstrate how Jinja 2 and templates work within Ansible. So the first example we are going to see is how to create a file from template. So like I mentioned, Jinja 2 templates are stored in a .j2 format, and this is the first example that we have created. So what here I'm saying is that hello, my name is the name. These are basically your variables which would be rendered when Ansible Playbook will create this file, and I'm from location. So for example, in this case, this will not work because if I run it, there is no variable called name and location. So if I run it, it will fail. Let's go back to my terminal and try to run this playbook and see how why it would fail. Okay, before I can start my container using Vagrant, I need to make sure that the Docker desktop is running. And now I can switch back to my terminal. So if we run Vagrant status command, as you can see right now, it says the the current machine is not created. So let's run Vagrant up command. And now it's going to start my virtual containers. And I have created a video already on how to use Vagrant with VMware Fusion. So if you are interested, you can look for that in my YouTube channel. Okay, so let's run the Vagrant sh command now. That would take us inside the container. Okay, now we are inside the container. We'll switch to the Vagrant directory, and this would have all of our YAML files that we have created. So if we see here, this is the file that we created right now, cat demo1.yaml. So if you can see right now, here we are trying to create a file from template using the Ansible built-in template module with the source from example.j2 and destination would be the same directory called example.log. And the example.j2 is basically two lines where we saying, hello, my name is name and I'm from whatever location, right? So if I run this command, this should fail. So as you can see right now, it's failing. It says undefined variable, name is undefined. So what happened? Ansible template was trying to render example.j2 and convert it into example.log. And when it was trying to render that, it was looking for a variable called name. It could not find it anywhere within the playbook. So that's why it's complaining about this. Let's go back and fix it. So now it's instead of saying, hello, my name is name and I'm from location, what we'll do is we will use the variables that are valid for us. So we'll say my name is user underscore name and I am from user underscore location. If we go back and run this again, this time it should work. So now, as you can see, create a file from template got created. If we look at that file, example.log got created, and here you can see it says, hello, my name is John and I'm from India. Again, so this is a very typical example of how to convert a Jinja2 template into a file, where Ansible template engine will replace the variables defined under these curly brackets. So anything defined between these curly brackets is a variable which Ansible will try to render into a actual value based on the variable's value. Okay, so we have covered how to use a variable in template. Now let's see how to control structures in templates. So for this example, we'll see how to use for loop within a template. So for that, what we'll do is let's just add a hash here and we'll say, okay, so what we are saying is for any value that would be under the users variable, basically it's a list of users, we'll just print hello user. And one mistake I have is that I have to use it within the variable because this is again is going to be a variable. So let's run this. So file got created. Let's see what are the values in the example.log now. So here you can see that it's the second example. So what happened here, all the users that we had in our playbook under the users variable, they got printed, right? So I don't know if you are interested, I can even change them to make them little better and I'll replace them like this so that you are not confused. Let me do that. And if I run the playbook again, it will say hello some user 12345 like that. Okay, file is rendered. Let's see what happened here. So now you can see that, right? It's printing hello use some user 12345. So whatever the values are available under the users list, what we are saying is we are looping through that. So we are using the for loop here. So for a user, and it could be anything, it doesn't have to be user, it can say item in users. We can simply like this, type like this as well, and add an, for example, exclamation here. And if we run it again, let's see what it got rendered. So you can see that, right? It's now printing hello some user 12345 like that. So that means this is the way you can use templating through different list using the for loop. So that's the example I was going to share with you, how to use loops, where I gave you an example of how to use for statement to loop over the list of dictionaries. Now, if you want, you can also use conditionals. For example, using if condition, if user is admin, welcome administrator, else hello user. So we can extend the same example here. Now, in this case, obviously, if you are looking for the users list, there are no attributes here, right? So we can use the users detail here. We can loop through users detail and based on its attribute, we can print different statements. So let's do that. So now what we are doing is, and let me just add it here as well. So what we are saying is for all the items in user details, if item.role equals to admin, then we will print hello username, you are the administrator, else we'll just print hello username. So in our dictionary, if you see user 1 is admin, user 2 is operator, and user 3 is developer. So if it were to work, we should have user 1 printed as admin and others two users printed normally. Okay, so let's try to run it. Let's clear the screen and run it. Okay, so the playbook is completed. Let's see what is rendered. Here you can see, right? So it printed hello user 1, you are the administrator. For user 2 and user 3, it did not print anything except for the hello username. And this is an example where we used if condition within a template. Okay, number 5, how to use filters in Jinja 2. So there are a lot of filters available within Ansible to use with Jinja 2. I'll give you few simple examples: lower, upper, replace, or default. But if I can show you, if we just simply search for Jinja 2 filters. Okay, so let's just open the first link that opens right now. If you open this one, using filters to manipulate data. Again, this is part of your Jinja2 template engine that is supported by Ansible. So you can see how to handle undefined variables, define different values of true and false or null, or you can use a ternary value if you want, managing different data types and so on and so forth. For example, this one is interesting, right? If you want to discover the data type of a particular variable, so you can just use my variable type debug, and this would basically show what type of data it is. You can transform strings into list using split. So there are different types of filters available within Ansible. I won't go through them all because that makes the video probably too long for someone to concentrate. So I'll give you very few simple examples like I was mentioning earlier to you. So if you can see, we can use upper and lower. So this is a very simple example of using the how to use filter. So what we can do is, let's continue with the example.j2, and instead of just saying hello username, we can probably use like this upper here. So if it is admin right now, if you see, or maybe we won't use this, I will just copy this whole thing from here, and then I can use upper filter so that you can understand what I'm trying to say. What would be the difference between the two values? Let's rerun it again. Now if you go back and see the example.log, here you can see that now user1 was printed in capital, whereas in the previous value, user1 was just printed with the default value, whatever it was. Now, if we change it, for example, if I go back and I just say name user1, so this is the default value, and let's see how we can convert it into upper and lower. Okay, before I do that, let's do one more thing. I just want to probably make it a little bit easier for someone to understand. So we'll just use, and this is so see a second example of filter, so we'll just use this filter as well here. So in this case we'll just use lower. So now what would happen is, in the first one we would just print the username with the default value that comes from our variable, whereas the second value should be in uppercase and the third value should be in the lowercase. Let's just quickly run it. Let's clear the screen and then run it. Okay, so this is complete. Let's see what got rendered. So now you can see that under the filters, the first one says hello user in capital letter, the second one says in the lower letter, and the actual value is like this, which had U in capital and other parts in small letters. So this is an example of how to use filters with Jinja2 templates. Now, if you want, we can also get the environment variables. So if you can see right now, we are saying user's home directory is the environment variable coming for home. And if we can simply just say like this, let me create a section for this right now. So if you see here, if I go back here, and maybe I'll give you one more example later on, but if I just type echo $home, so if you see my home variable at this machine level is set up as home vagrant. And if I run this playbook, this external variable, which is not part of our Ansible playbook, demo1.yaml, should get rendered in the log file. So let's see that if that happens. So the file is rendered. Let's go back and see. So if you can see here, Ansible users home directory is home vagrant. So this way we use lookup to view an external data, because again, this is an example of using an environment variable home, and we can also, or maybe Ansible binary location. Let's see if we can grab something related to Ansible here, or we can just get PWD probably. That's a better indicator, because it should be part of our environment variable. So let's render this. And if we run, what's happening? 1 second, sorry. I pressed too many keys. Let's run it again. So in this example, what should happen is this PWD environment variable should get rendered into our final value or final file that we are generating through Ansible template. So if you go back here and see the example.log file, you can see that it says Ansible binary location is this. It should be not the binary location, but we should say Ansible like this, right? So this is a better example. of how to use lookup and external data. Now, if you want, we can also customize the output with Jinja2 formatting. So let's say, for example, if for some server you're trying to generate a markdown file dynamically, it could be an HTML file as well. So for example, in this case, I'll just use the same example. I'll take it as it is. So let me create it first here. Okay, so we are creating a markdown file in this one, and let's see if we can convert the output as well into the markdown. So let me just convert it into an MD file. So let's see if this works like this. So let's run the playbook. So this is completed. Let's see, let's open this file. So in this one, in this case, it created example.md file, and you can see that if we load it in the markdown viewer, you can see that, right? Customized output with Jinja2 formatting, it generated a correct markdown output. So this is an example of how we can customize the output with Jinja2 formatting like this. Okay, so let's continue with the rest of the topics. So we have covered first 8 sections already. Now we will be talking about few advanced Jinja2 concepts. Again, they are not very frequently used, but if you want, you can use few of these concepts within your day-to-day work, and probably these would be something that you might not have used in past, or maybe you have. So first thing we are going to talk about is macros. Macros is like a, so let me go back here. So macro is like a reusable block of code. So you can write, for example, in a traditional programming language, you write a function and you can reuse it again and again. So similar kind of thing you can do within the templating. You can create a macro and then use that if you want later on. So let me just copy this so that I don't have to type it again. And I'll go back to the example.j2 and let me just go here and say, so now we are going to use macros. So if we say we are creating a reusable block of code which says greet the name, and we'll just print hello name, right? So in this case, we can just print like this, or we can now simply use this for loop here. Let's see if it works like this. So instead of, well, this is a very simple example, but we could use that if we want. Let's run it. Okay, so the file got rendered. Let's see what's the value is. We'll go back and open the example.md file, or not the log, MD file. So if you can see here, oh, okay. So it basically printed the whole thing. Hello name, location, because I had a typo there. So I shouldn't say hello user, but I should say user.name, right? Because user is a complete dictionary, user.name here, right? So this should hopefully print it correctly, because let me remove this file, because now we are looking for the MD file as well. So let's run it. In this case, hopefully the output would be rendered correctly, because we don't want to print obviously the whole thing, which wouldn't make sense. I just wanted to show you how to use macros, which is a reusable code block. And let's open the markdown file now. You can see that out. It's printed like this, hello user 123, and we had a typo here, so I just don't want it. So this is an example of how to use macros. Now let's create few examples where I would be showing you how to use inheritance. Oops, we are not in the right MD file. Let me. So I'll be showing you how to use template inheritance. So let's create two templates. Call it is.j2. So I have added an additional task in my sample playbook where we are going to convert this child.j2 into a file called sample.html. And if you see, the content of the child.j2 is basically simply saying welcome to title. But if you say it, see, it extends something which is basically coming from base.j2. So whatever is in the base.j2 will come, and we can use it within the child.j2. And if I run it, and it will fail obviously, because we don't have those variables defined, but I just want to show you how it works with an error. So now, yeah, as you can see right now, it's obviously failing because it says title is undefined. Let's define it within our playbook. Let's just call it user directory. Let's run it again and see what it says now. Okay, so this time this file got rendered, and let's see the output in VS Code, because I don't have HTML browser installed within the playbook. But if you can see here, it's basically rendering correctly, right? So if you see the title user directory, this part came from the base, head title, right? And from the child, we are basically converting it, giving it h1, which is the heading one. So if you see, a heading one came from the child, and heading came from the, or head came from the base. So this is an example of how you can use inheritance within the Jinja2 templates, and you can inherit or use this particular code block called extend. Here you can extend an existing template and use that functionality or the content into the base or into the child template if you want. In terms of the debugging, I've already mentioned to you how to debug using the Ansible debug task, but let me create one more task for you so that you can probably easily see how to validate the variables if you want within the Ansible tower. So you can see that here I'm using a debug module to print the value of items received using the user's template, and I can simply run this, and let's clear this and run this, and this would show us what would be the values that I would be getting without rendering the whole template. I can simply render it like this if I want, right? So now I got hi some user like this value. So I now know what would be the value that would be printed if I use this within a template. And let's say I'm not sure how to use user details. So I can just simply loop it through user details. And I don't want to render the rest of this template. So for the time being, let me clear it and disable these tasks so that I can quickly show you how to use the debug module for that, how I use it on day-to-day basis. Because if you're trying to render variables using them, it's best to use the Ansible debug task. Right now, if you can see here, it's printing the whole dictionary for user one, user two, user three. So now let's say I just want to get country one, sorry, location and age. So I can simply now use hi like this. And if I run it again, right now, if you can see, it is debugging it correctly. It says hi user one, age is 21, user two, age is 31, user three, age is 41. So that's how you would, and if you want, use a debug module to go through these Jinja2 templates or debug your Jinja2 templates and variables before using it within your Ansible playbook to render the larger values. So and here is another example. So if you want to use, okay, so let me show you another example where if you want, you can use the for loop within the Jinja2 template. And if you don't want to use loop like this. So if let's try to run this. Here you can see it printed everything. So this is another way of you validating your template. So now I could basically quickly test my template, how it would have looked within my playbook, right? So for example, let's just test this and let's go back to the playbook, and we can even, let's say if you want, we can test this. Let's do that, and let's test macro using the Ansible debug module. Okay, so right now if you can see, it printed hello user 1, hello user 2, hello user 3, but here we don't have any loop or anything because basically we are using macro and then looping through that macro using the user's detail value, right? So this way, or maybe we can just say age like this, right? So in this case, it should print hello age, whatever, 21, 31, 41. Let's see if it prints that, right? So it printed hello 21, 31, 41 because now we are saying hello user dot age, which is basically the age value for each of these dictionaries, age key rather. Okay, so that covers all of the topics that I wanted to discuss. So what we have learned so far is what is Jinja 2, how to use variables within templates, how to use loops and conditions, how to use filters in Jinja 2 templates. There are tons of filters available, how to use lookups and get the external data using templates and Jinja 2 variables, how to customize your output with Jinja 2 template, for example, for HTML or for Markdown files. Couple of advanced Jinja 2 concepts. We learned about macros, how to use reusable code, and we also learned how to use template inheritance and how to use Ansible's debug module for debugging the Jinja 2 templates. I hope you found this video useful. I'll see you soon. Bye for now. Thank you.